Mick Ellis, when did your family come to Harlow?
As far as I can remember, my father moved us to Harlow in 1954.
And do you know why?
I know exactly why. He was a foundry worker at the time in Croydon, Purley Way. And Harlow was just being built, well, 4 years old then I think. And there was a firm called Key Glass. Harlow Council were offering people a house and a job. That's where you come. Got the house and the job at Key Glass, and he still lives in the same house today.
Did he ever say how he, living in Purley Way, Croydon, did he ever say how he found out about a job at Key Glass? Was it in a paper or how?
He didn't, no, he hasn't actually, but in them days you can only assume that it was paper, obviously before the internet and stuff like that. And that's a question I'll probably go and ask him. Find out how he done that.
And he's still living in the same house, you say?
Still living in the same house.
And may I ask, which street is that?
Carters Mead.
Carters Mead.
Yep.
Okay.
His stories when we moved in, it was all mud. The Stowe shopping centre was the main shopping centre. High hadn't been built. All mud in the garden. Scaffold balls in the garden. Yeah.
And the thing we've learned over these interviews, your interview number 41, is how important people's work was to their life. Did you get that feeling from your father?
Yeah, definitely, without doubt, because that's the main reason for him coming, yeah. And the fact that you get a brand new house in your own key. My father, to his credit, is a real hard worker. He's physically fit through hard work. He's not a muscly bloke, but he's not a weak person. He's 90 years old now, and he still rides a push bike and still digs an allotment. I think he'd be on the same allotment if it wasn't the fact that they built Church Langley on his original allotment site. So they moved it one way, or sort of moved it up the road a little bit. He still likes a bit of DIY. Looks after his house, and he keeps putting gadgets. He's like a keen snooker player, Burntmill Snooker Club, and he keeps putting gadgets on his bike. One, as an example, is to put his snooker cue in. You or I would probably put it along the crossbar, but he's got it stuck up in the air. Then, so he doesn't have to turn around. He's put an extension on his handlebars for a mirror. So he's still all there. A little bit deaf. It's the only problem, but still quite clued up.
And how did he get to work every day from Carters Mead to Key Glass?
Key Glass was a cycle track. Used to go, Carters Mead used to go down the road, because we'd done it as kids. Sometimes me and a few kids from the street would go and meet our dads, and it was from Carters Mead. You used to go down the hill to past the clock tower, through the woods, it went all the way virtually to work. Seemed to be all downhill. Coming home, obviously, all uphill. I think that track is still there today. And what used to be there as well was the cinema. We used to pass the cinema. Now that's we're sort of the back of Tesco's now. The track's still there. Obviously, the building is still there, and the original steps that I point out to my family every time we pass. I say, "Oh, that's where the cinema used to be. That's the original steps," but obviously the building is an industrial building now. So yeah, it was a mass like migration of people on push bikes.
And great exercise. You think how many
Without
miles a week your dad was cycling?
He tells a story, and I don't quite believe this. He seemed to think that the sun was in his eyes all the way to work. I'm trying to think of it while I'm telling you the story, and it was in his eyes all the way back. So I can't quite work out how
I think it might be the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Yeah, it was a shift work. It was 24 hours.
I see.
So that's one thing I remember about him. It was, in them days, it was a 24-hour shift, 8 hours.
11 to 7, 7 to 3, 3 to 11.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the scariest things, Michael, that I can remember when I was a kid. He took me into key glass once, and the noise, I could have only been about 10 probably, the noise and the heat in that place. Now, I know now why my father's deaf, and then it was scary. Red hot molten glass just zooming around on these conveyor belts, and the stuff, it's sweaty, the stuff they were given to drink. My dad gave me this orange juice drink full of salt to put back there, the minerals in their body.
Was he actually working in near the furnaces then?
The furnaces, what I can remember of the place, I only had one visit in there, were tracks going round, and there was blobs of hot glass coming out all over the place into moulds, and they had these special tweezer tong things for picking up bowls to have a look at them. So the furnaces, I wouldn't know where they were, but it just seemed like there's blobs of red hot glass coming out all over the place. But the noise was deafening, and that's what's made him deaf, in my opinion.
So taking a bit of a leap from your dad to yourself, we're here in the Harlow Judo Club this afternoon. Is one of the reasons that you were born here in Harlow?
I was actually born in Oxford, 1952, and then at the age of about 2, that's when my father and mother moved out from Oxford, rural setting. They were a sort of farm setting. Then they moved to Croydon for work purposes, and then Harlow. So I was actually born in Oxford.
So what's your earliest memories of Harlow?
Yeah, my earliest memories of Harlow, I would say me and my best mate Bobby Clapperton. He had a little, about 3 years old. We had he had a Jeep, a pedal car, American style Jeep, and I had an Austin type pedal car. We decided we'd go and build our own house and run away. There's always building sites. Then there were building sites all over the place, and they weren't like now. They weren't fenced off building sites you could walk on. Anyway, there was a building going on just up the road. Me and Bobby put a brick each in the back of our car, and off we went. And we got to the bottom of Carters Mead. We didn't realise everybody was searching for us, and we got found by one of our neighbours, because everybody was like integrated then, everybody knew everybody, and got dragged home. I said, well, we were just having an adventure. And I reckon that was about 3 years old. I remember going to school, Potter Street School, still there now. My grandchildren go to the same school. My mother was from a rural background, but in Potter Street in Harlow, she spoke properly. When we went, I always remember her, when we went to visit her parents, she'd revert back to her dialect, her country dialect. But in Harlow, she spoke properly. Getting dropped off at school, I said to her, I don't quite remember this, I remember her telling me this, but I remember going to school quite clearly, because we started school in at 5. I don't want to talk like you, Mum. You don't have to, because the school, where my father lives now, the school is just at the end of the road. I said, you don't have to bring me to school. And I do remember that incident, probably because she's told me all the time. That's what you said to me. So those are my earliest memories of Harlow, or coming to Harlow.
Did you then go on to Braes Grove? Or was it there then?
Braes Grove was there. So Potter Street, we went straight from Potter Street to Brosgrove. But what I remember, I've just recently done a taster session for year 7 at St Mark's, and I had this conversation with a few of the teachers there the other day. St Mark's School, I remember being built while I was still at Potter Street, and it's a Catholic school. And I said, all our mates, like, all the Catholic people from our Potter Street school were taken from school, from our school, and sent to St Mark's. And we never saw them again, sort of thing. They were being educated in St Mark's, and that was all quite strange. But my grandson goes there now, and it's all integrated. Then from there, around about the same time, I think it's the Masonic Hall up by the church, St Mary Magdalene's Church. A few of us from Potter Street were sent up there as an overflow school. So I had a couple of years at being in that building, being educated in there, which was, I must have been about 9, 10. Yeah, 9, 10, 11. 11 was when you went to Brosgrove, so 9 and 10, yeah. And I remember that was quite a good adventure up there, being totally different. A small class. I don't really understand why they sent me there. Perhaps we're either geniuses or the other end of the scale. But we seem to do all right.
And when did you first get interested in judo?
Judo, yeah. Judo, we found out, like, in our street, I think you probably realise what it is. You had your little gang in your street, and if you went into another street, their little gang chased you off. So there was a bit of nothing.
Wasn't West Side Story or
nothing
the Bronx?
Serious. Nothing serious. No weapons involved. But our little gang in our street heard about this judo club opening up in a place called Purley Springs. The building that we started in is not there now. It's with car parking. It was demolished and made into a parking area for the local residents. But we had, once again, about 9 or 10 years old. So 6 of us went round to the judo club and found out what it was all about and joined in this. It wasn't, all my pupils call me Mick now, but the bloke's name was Mr. Curry. So that's how we knew him. And he'd come apparently from Clacton. So I drove all the way over to Harlow from Clacton. Didn't know anything about the sport. And our family was quite poor. And he, the instructor, used to ask us to wear pyjama jackets, the ones that we used to wear in bed. But because they kept getting ripped. And it was about, for quite a long time, about 15, 18 months perhaps. They must have felt sorry for me. This instructor gave me a spare suit to wear. I remember the fees being 9 odd pence in there. So you should just take the 9 pence over, you should chuck it on the side. So we started there, and then I found I was quite good. One of the best adventures we had from there was a Newtown judo competition. Now, I'm a bit vague about this, and I thought my brother remembered this more than me. Basically what happened, there was an inter-Newtown, Crawley, Basildon, Harlow, Stevenage. They were all invited to a inter-Newtown judo sports event, and judo was part of it. So we had our team from Purley Springs, and we, as kids, I don't remember any adults being involved in this, as a team got on a bus and we were going to Basildon. Just got on this coach, we got off at the wrong place, got back on, and I think we ended up in Stevenage and done quite well in this competition. But I tried quizzing my brother on that, and he's even more vague than me. So we used to go from our house, and it involved going up the street and across a little dirt track there used to be 2 pubs, the Red Lion, and there was one on the other side that got knocked down on the other side of the road. Wright's Court used to be a little sweet shop. As kids, we weren't supposed to go over the road, but we needed to cross the road. But this little dirt track, being little kids, we used to think there was people around. We used to run across this dirt track, stop at the road, cross over the road, walk round to Purley Springs, do our training, same thing on the back, get to this little dirt track, run across, some trees hanging over, like a little tunnel sort of thing in the trees, run across and back home safe, all by ourselves. Father was too busy working, never got involved. And we had a little competition once a year, our club championships once a year in the common room, Pot Street Community Centre that's still there today.
Can I go back into something for a second that you just mentioned that my father was too busy working? Did you think that shift life absorbed their time greatly? That it must have been.
Without doubt, yeah. I often remember him sitting down at a table with my mum, and what they used to do was, in those days you get paid cash. They'd put some money in the envelope for the rent. The rent man used to come around the door, collect the rent. You'd put sixpence in the gas meter, and you had the insurance man come round. All these people would come round and knock on the door. The milkman would come round, the baker would come round. Anyway, they'd be sitting on the table, sorting out the week's money, and my dad would have whatever was left over for his pocket money. Yeah, but obviously with 3 shifts, he's trying to sleep in one of them during the day. Yeah, there was never really any time. He had 2 days off, but what he used to do was work, because I come from a farming community. He used to work for the local farms, the Clock Tower one he used to work for, and Eastwick. And that was another scary thing he put me through. I often tell him about going down to Eastwick. And I'm only a little kid, but he taught me to drive a tractor in the fields, letting me with these cows, in a pen with these cows. And cows to a little kid, they're quite big and they're quite heavy. I was a bit nervous about it being in with them cows, but I've often told him about that, and he just thinks it's a bit of a laugh at the time, but I'm here, I survived. Yep.
Back to the judo.
Yep.
So did you, we've got to the 60s when you were taking up
Yep.
judo, now we're in 2017, so did you get better at judo? Tell me about your
I seem to have a natural ability for it. I was never any good at football. There was a couple of people, Alex Fleming and Carl Knowles, who were established in the club, who were quite good. They were beating, because one of the little gang from our street was my brother. They were quite good and they were beating us. But after about a year of training, we entered the club championships, and there was basically 2 classes. My brother was a little bit younger than me. I won, there was only 1 medal for each class. I won the medal for the older class, and my brother won the medal for the younger class. And then my mum tells me that Mrs. Fleming, Alex's mum, at the school, your boys, that's unfair. Didn't get involved in anything like that. So that's the first, I've still got that medal, which my mum kept, now she's died, and I've got it back at my house. That was 1961, we won that medal. So it was 11, So I must have had some sort of aptitude. Carl, he was physically bigger. He was the one we were after, so we were glad to beat him. In them days, there's grade systems. In those days, we only used to get graded once a year. And the sports centre, we used to go to the sports centre. But we were Perry Springs Judo Club. I've tried to find out where Harlow Judo Club first started, or if there was a judo club, a proper judo club. We are Harlow, but I inherited that from a bloke called Alf Sinfield when he died. So in the early 60s, the sports centre has just been built, and we went to the Harlow Sports Centre to do our gradings and go up there. Even today, when I talk to my pupils now, without getting too technical, there's these things called O-Uchigari, Ko-Uchigari, Osoga, all things sound similar, slightly different. And I remember sitting down on the side for my first grading, talking to my mates. Oh, if he's going to ask me O-Uchigari, I can't quite remember which is O, which is Ko. And I can relate to the pupils now when they don't understand it. So instead of ranting and raving at them, I tell them the story. Even I couldn't remember. And you'll get it. Oh, Ko. And they do get it in the end. But I do remember sitting in the sports centre, early 60s, fretting over being tested. There was an examination for your next belt, your next grade, Mon grade. In those days, we only done one test every year. I'm not sure if that was how it's supposed to have been, or our instructor just wanted it that way. Women weren't allowed to do judo, although our instructor did in the early 60s. 1961, I think, they started letting people, women, do judo, and kids, really.
And here you are all these years later.
Yeah, I don't really know. If I go off the point, yeah, because I stayed doing judo. I joined the army straight from school. In 1968. I joined the army, the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. We had to do our basic training at a place called Deep Cut, infamous. Yep. And I just kept my mouth shut, kept myself quiet. I was trained as well. What gave me a lot of benefit was a bloke called Len Sell, who was Mr. Universe at the time, moved into our street, and he took me and my best mate Bobby Clapperton under his wing, and he made us strong.
That sounds like a story in itself, isn't it? Mr. Universe lived in our street in Harlow.
I tried to I won't go there now. I tried to contact him the other day, but that's another story, like I say. Anyway, got strong. So when I joined the army, the first Wednesday in the army was sports day. We was told to pick two sports. I said I wanted to do weight training and judo. I won't go into the weight training, I'll concentrate on judo. There was about 10 of us wanted to do judo. And they assigned an officer to us. Now, the place I was at was an apprentice college. So we were the new boys, and obviously that boys had been there. You was there for about 3 years at this apprentice college. So you'd had boys who'd been there for perhaps up to 2.5 years. Then this bloke, Lieutenant Ben, said he was given the job of taking on the judo team because he was an orange belt in judo. So he took us all on, took us away. We got a little room. He kitted us out, and I let him teach me my breakfalls right from the basic stuff. Teach me judo again. Then it was after about 6 weeks. I even remember the bloke's name. This Private Hassel. He'd been there a little while. So Lieutenant Ben said, "That's all I know about. I don't know his first name. He never got on those sort of terms." Lieutenant Ben said, our first fight, I remember looking at Hassel, looking in his eyes, and I thought, no, he thinks he's going to do me, but I was quite good. They just thought I was nothing. We bowed. Anyway, I beat him up. And then the officer says, "You've done this before, haven't you?" I said, "Yeah." "I could probably beat you, sir." That's what So I took him on, beat him, and that was it. I worked my way through. We stayed as a good team, and we became junior army champions 18 months later. Taking on the parachute regiment, people like that, and managing to beat them. I met Lieutenant Ben Said in the adult army junior championships a little bit later on, a few years later on, when I was in Germany, and he then was still trying to, and I was advising him then, because I knew a little bit about what was going on. I didn't know anything about bureaucracy. All I knew, I was a fighter, and I was pretty good. Yeah. So, joined the army, stayed there for nearly 2 years, and then got posted to Germany. That's when you were sort of left by yourself. So being in the army, we was attached to regiments, and then it was hard then to find somewhere to fight. So we was attached to the Coldstream Guards for a while, attached to the Welsh Guards for a while, and I joined all their respective judo teams. But the best one was when I was attached to the Royal Horse Artillery. They had a good team, and this is the first time that we had an instructor, Gordon Siddell. Without being too technical, he was a bit of a dirty fighter, and his nickname was Chewy, which was a penalty point and that was his nickname. But he taught me quite a lot, and some of the stuff he taught me, I still use as my techniques. It was his, but I don't see anybody else doing them today. So carried on practicing. What we used to do in Germany, I think you might understand, is there's no lorries allowed on the roads out there. This bloke, I never found out his name, but this old bloke, I say he's an old bloke because we was only 18, 19, 20. He might have only been about 30, and now it's not old to me now because I'm 65. He used to sleep in our barracks, park his lorry up, he's a lorry driver, park his lorry up in our barracks, sort it out with the regimental sergeant major, and he'd get involved with us when we used to go fighting. He'd come along with us, he'd eat with us, sleep in our barracks, come along. I often think about this bloke. I wonder where he is now, what he's doing, but he's probably dead now. But yeah, and he'd come round fighting, come round watching us, and that's what we do. Every weekend we sort of had some sort of inter-unit competition, so it kept us fit and strong.
And to this day, you're keeping fit and strong. I mean, you said you're 65. I have to say you're looking very well.
Yeah,
for 65.
yeah.
Is that a lot of it down to the judo and the life of a judo man? And
I think if I stopped, I'll probably seize up. That's probably what it is. Yes, I come out of the army in '68, and I joined the army 78. Come out in '78. Moved to Harlow. We was offered a house in Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes got a good judo club. It was just being built in Milton Keynes, but we come back to Harlow, mainly because my wife wanted to come back to the family. And yeah, that's when, so I had 10 years out of the town really. I come back and I wanted to start a scout group really, because I was right into scouting. And the person who was in charge of the scout group when I left said, oh, it's not like it used to be, don't do it. So then I went back, then I joined the Army Cadets. I went down to the Army Cadets with a view to helping out down there. And all I wanted to do was help out a bit. But they said, oh no, what you know, all this stuff you know, we'll make you an officer, you can be in charge. I didn't want to be in charge. I didn't want to run the place. So I didn't do that, I left them. And I decided to start a judo club in the Catherine's Common Room. Catherine's was a new estate that's been built. At this stage, I was only a green belt. Anyway, I went to the committee for Catherine's Common Room, the people who run it, Casca, Catherine's and Sunrise Community Association. And I asked them if I could start a judo club. And they said, oh, that's funny. There's someone else wants to start a judo club. Now, just coming out of the army, I was a yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir person. I said, well, can I meet him? So I met him, and this bloke, Jim Homan, he was only an orange belt. So I basically said to him, the committee was saying, well, who's going to do it? I said, well, look, he's only an orange belt, I'm a green belt, I'm a higher grade, it's down to me. And that's what happened. That's because I was army brainwashed. And he accepted that, so he come in as my number 2 in the Catherine's Common Room. And that's where I stayed, running my club in the Catherine's Common Room right up until 2.5 years ago, no, 3 years ago, when we tried to lease that, and the council said, no, we're going to shut it down, we're going to redevelop the area, we're not going to lease it to you. But then I got it. But I went after everything. I went after all Kingsmore, Lattenbush, Sumners. I tried to get them all. So 35 years, all during that 35-year period, I was trying to get my own dojo off the council. But basically, I stayed, even though I was doing a mobile service around the schools, I kept Catherine's on all that time.
And now you're here down in Fold Croft.
Yep, our main club was in Stewards School. Now we still kept the Catherine's on. Our main club was in Stewards. And then we moved in here. It was nervous time trying to take this on. At the time in Stewards School, I was charging £12.50 a month. When we thought we were coming here, and all the overheads that we got on this place, we put the mat fees up, but there was a bit of a delay. We doubled the mat fees, in fact, or not quite doubled, £12.50 up to 21 quid. And we come down here, and people didn't like the car parking. No one lost, no one left when we put the fees up. Come down here, people in their nice cars. We lost half our membership, which was a bit worrying because all the sums were done on a certain amount of numbers. It went right down to 42 people. Now we're back up to around about the 80 mark again, which is good. Yep, so I think I did explain to you before, once we paid our deposit for the rent in this place, our bank account was empty, so it was nervous. So I see these people, all these clubs who want their own dojo. Oh, how can we get it? And I say to them, we're just going to do it. Hopefully we've got our sums right, which I know we have. And here we are now, trying to bring the place up to spec, run our competitions. We hire the leisure zone once a year, have a big, massive competition in the leisure zone. Invite people from all over the country. And it's quite a prestigious event in the calendar.
Finally, are you proud of your work you've done here with judo? Are you proud of that?
I love it. I love it in here, and I'm proud. To say proud of myself might be not quite right, but I am proud of what the club's doing, because I always refer to this as the club. Everybody says it's mine. It's not mine. We're committee run, and it's mine. So when I say that, I'm proud of what this club has achieved. Obviously I realise that's probably me, but I always refer to it as the club. The club, because 5 years down the line, 70 years old, my plan is hopefully to hand over the club to a new committee, new senior instructor. I'll always be in the background, hopefully as the president. So it's the club. So I am very, very proud of what this club has achieved.
I'm sure Harlow's very, very grateful and pleased for all that you've done. So on that note, Mick, thank you very much for your time.